Hello, welcome back to Sustainably Sewn. I'm Candace, and today you are counting with Candace. So first off, we're going to be counting chicken thighs, uncooked chicken thighs. So let me show you what we're going to need. Because meat is a low acid food, it's going to have to be pressure count. So we have our pressure counter here. We have our racks. This one goes in the bottom. This one goes on top of the first row of jars. So we can put more jars on top of that. So something like this. Okay. We have our lid with the gasket. And this gasket. It's been, I don't know, about 6 months since I've canned. So anytime the counter's been stored for any period of time, or like maybe every 5 batches or so, this gasket needs to be oiled. It needs to be checked to make sure that it's not cracking, that it's not stretched out. If it gets dry, it could crack, and your counter isn't going to seal, and it's not going to pressurize, and your food is not going to be canned properly. So we're just going to take a little bit of olive oil here, and we're just going to go around. See, there's a little groove inside here. I'm just going to get that up in the, I'm going to go around the outside of it. And go all the way around a couple times. And then I'm going to go, just put my finger kind of inside that groove. I'm going to run this through the groove. All the way around. Alright, so that is good. I don't want too much oil on it, because I don't want the inside of the pan to get oily. And back through the center. So I'm just going to put that back on. Now while I'm at it, this right here is a vent hole, which goes to the pipe, the vent pipe. I want to make sure that's not clogged, so I'm just going to hold it up to light and see, make sure I can see light through there, through that hole right there. And I can. If you need to, sometimes they get clogged, especially if you have hard water. So what you can do is take a toothpick, and you can run a toothpick into that hole just to clear it out. And then on the sides of this little thing here, it has little holes around the sides too, and you can just push it through every single side. There. Just to make sure nothing's clogged. This pops up and down with the pressure, releases any extra pressure. And if it builds up, the pressure builds up too much, this is actually a rubber gasket, and this will actually blow off. It's a safety valve. Yeah, that would be what keeps it from exploding. Then we have this. We're going to make sure that moves up and down freely as well. We want to make sure our pressure gauge is on top and that that's tightened down. So we're good to go with that. So I'm just going to set that aside. So we've got our pressure canner hot. Everything's good. The arrow, I'm going to make sure the arrow is on the left-hand side, because when the lid goes on, it has to be that direction for the dial to be facing me. So, what the next thing we need, my canner is a 23-quart Presto brand pressure canner. And for this size, Presto calls for 12 cups of water to be placed in there. So first of all, everything was washed ahead of time. So I didn't really think you guys would want to watch me washing dishes. So that's going to go in the bottom to make sure the butts are facing down so that it raises it up off the bottom of the pan. Because we don't want the bottom of the jars to be touching right onto the heat from the flame underneath. So the water we're using today is going to be cool, maybe room temperature max, because we're actually going to do what's called a cold pack. We're going to be putting cold uncooked chicken into the jars. We're going to be putting it into cold jars. So that's a cold pack. So you also want the water that you start off with in the counter to be about the same temperature as the jars and as whatever's inside them. So if we were doing, say, some kind of soup or spaghetti sauce that we had cooked, and we had just cooked it and it was still hot, then we would heat our jars in hot water. We would put the water inside our counter would be hot, and we would actually turn it on and get it to a gently rolling boil, gently simmering, not rolling boil, but a simmer, the gentle simmer, so that it would be about the same temperature. Because you know what happens when you put hot liquid in a cold jar or vice versa? The glass cracks. Alright, there's our 12 cups of water. So I no longer need this. So, just clean as I go. Clean as I go. Alright, let me put this way. Alright, so that's our first step. Now, some other things we need a small pan. It needs to be a non-reactive pan. So aluminum is great. Kind of a heavy bottom. And we're basically just going to use this. We're going to put water in it. Hot, cold, doesn't matter. We're just going to use it to sterilize. And I only put it about halfway. We're going to use it to sterilize our jar lids. Which I have here. We're going to be using quart size wide mouth jars. Wide mouth is when the opening of the jar is the same size as the jar. If it was narrower, it would be a regular mouth. This is a wide mouth. This is good for putting in like big pieces of meat, or I don't know, potatoes, maybe something on the larger side. It's good for jellies, jams, things like that. So these are the lids, and we always want to use brand new lids. This rubber gasket right here is what's going to seal to the jar. This lid, or this ring, is going to seal that lid on there. So what happens if you would use, Still here. If you were to use an old lid, this is what happens, okay? When you open the jar, you're using a can opener. You're prying it up, it bends the metal on the lid. Even though the gasket still looks good, the rubber looks good, that is bent. So it may not actually fit flat properly onto the jar, and it may not seal. Or it may create a false seal. You may think it's sealed, and then a couple weeks later or a month later, it all of a sudden just comes loose because it didn't really seal good. It's what we call a false seal. Then all of a sudden you'll just start smelling something funky coming from your pantry. And then you'll have to go hunting for a jar that is actually open and spoiled and is probably full of botulism and can actually kill somebody. So we don't want to do that. I know a lot of people will do it, and they'll actually take and go back and, you know, try to straighten that out. And I guess an emergency situation, I mean, the Amish used to reuse their lids and whatnot, and I guess you could, but these are really inexpensive. They're only a couple bucks, so why risk it? Like, really? I mean, if you buy off-brands, like online somewhere, you could get a whole lot of them for really cheap. You also find them on sale. I mean, some of these look really good, and they, you know, I mean, a pinch. Yeah, I guess you could use them again if you wanted to, but like I said, they're really cheap, really inexpensive, really not worth it. Anyway, alright, so this pan that I put the water in is going to be for my lids. They need to be boiled for a short time. For one, to sterilize, and for two, to help soften the rubber so that it could help it seal better to the jar. So what I have 14 pint jars, wide mouth. I'm going to use 14 lids. And I'm going to put one face up, one face down, so that they don't seal together. Face up, face down. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And I don't have quite enough water, so that's fine. I can just go add more. Now they're covered. And I'm just going to set that there. Set it aside. I'm not going to turn it on yet until we're ready to go. The other things you need: white vinegar. This is a disinfectant, a natural disinfectant. High acid, 5% acidity. We're going to use it to wipe rinse the jars before we seal that, before we put the lids on and seal them to put them in the counter. So for that, we need a small little bowl. I have a brush. I have my jars, which I already washed inside and out. These are great. I keep it's just a bottle brush, but they work really good to get into the bottom of the jars, and I use it. I have one that I use just for canning. I don't use it for normal dish cleaning or anything like that. Any one of these things? Hello. No. That's really not appropriate. This is a jar lifter. After we get our jars all closed up, sealed, filled and sealed, we're going to use this to lift our jars in and out of the counter. Very important because especially afterwards, the jars are going to be really hot. So this will save your fingers. This is a magnet. It's a lid lifter. It says lid lifter. This is what you're going to use to get the lids out of the water and to put them onto the hot filled jars, like so. Okay. One of those. This funny looking little thing is a debubbling tool. No, it's actually multi-purpose. It's a debubbling tool. So after we put the food inside there, we're gonna actually move stuff around like so. Use it to stir. If you're doing a soup or a stew or I don't know, something like that, you're gonna stir it. Jellies, jams, whatever. You're gonna stir this to make the bubbles come to the top. Because the whole point of canning is to get the air out. You don't want bubbles trapped in the middle of your food. So we will be using this to push things around and to try to let the air out. The other end is actually a headspace tool. So the recipes will tell you to leave a 1/2 inch headspace, a 1 inch headspace, etc. What that means is when we fill the jar, we're not going to fill it all the way. If it says a 1 inch headspace, we're going to fill it 1 inch from the top. So this is the 1 inch mark. We're not going to fill it. See where it's at inside the jar? That's as far as we're going to fill it. Because as everything cooks and heats and it creates juice and it bubbles, it's going to come up. And if it's too full, it's actually going to push what you're cooking and what you're preserving. It's going to push it up out of the lid and into the pan. So we want to make sure we keep our headspace the way the recipe calls for it. So on this tool, it was very tiny, but you can see this line right here is a 1/4 inch headspace. It's actually raised right here, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch. Now notice if I do it on the outside of the jar, if you look right here where the lines of the jar cross, that's actually 1 inch is just below right here where the jar starts to turn before it goes to this rim. 3/4 inch is at this raised rim here. 1/2 inch is at the center piece. 1/4 inch is at this one. So I don't use that part. I just know. See that? See how that works? Where those lines are on the jar, that's also where the tool is. So if you don't have that end of it, you can always use a butter knife, a spatula, something to get in there to get the bubbles out. And you just know by the lines on your jar where your headspace is. So I have that. A funnel, which I may or may not use today. We're going to be doing chicken thighs. So it may not work quite as well to use the funnel, but normally you use the funnel to keep the jar clean. The food goes through the funnel, it doesn't touch the top of the jar at all. That's what you can use that to fill the jars. This is a regular mouth jar. That would sit right up into there, and then you could ladle food, soup, stew, juice, whatever into the jar without getting it all over spilling it all over the jar. Okay, so we have that. I have paper towels because we're going to use this little cup. We're going to put vinegar in this little cup, and we're going to use this to go around the rims of the jar. Hey, you all ready to can some chicken? So we're going to be canning raw chicken thighs today. And I actually got a really good deal on them, so I bought a whole case, 40 pounds. Because we're canning raw chicken, I'm going to be doing a lot of hand washing in between. Pesky fly. Alright, I'm putting that right there. Get out of here, fly. Shoe fly. Okay, so when you fill the jar, you want to make sure you're following the headspace for your recipe. For meat, it's a 1-inch headspace. So this is a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. 1 inch would be like right down here, right where the jar starts to turn. Oh, that jar's dirty. That's good. A soggy glass on that one. Okay, so you're just gonna take a piece of chicken, squish it in. You want to squish it down in there and get as much air out and any gaps that you can. We're gonna try to get it down in there the best we could, and that's about as far as we could go. I'm going to go ahead and fill these jars all quick, and then we'll go back and we'll put some water. Top them off with some water. They're going to make most of their own juice, but I still want to, so that jar's a little bit low, so I'm going to cut another piece. Ooh, a piece of bone in that one. I don't want that. Let's cut that out. I'm actually just gonna use my kitchen shears and cut another piece to put up in the top of there. And that brings it right to the 1-inch mark. Anything that has too much skin, I'm going to pull it off. I really don't want that much skin. And I want to try not to touch the outside of the jar with chicken hands. So, like I said, a lot of washing. I'm going to use one hand on the chicken, and one hand on the jar. Some gaps down there, but we're going to end up squishing those down and filling them. I do want a little bit of fat left on them, but not like the whole piece of skin. Like this is fine because that fat is actually going to leave a little bit of flavor in the meat. Alright, here's another one that's a little bit, chicken breast, or chicken thigh is a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to cut another piece. Fill that jar up. And I'm right-handed. I'm using the scissors left-handed, so I'm having a little bit of a problem. That's a little bit too much. If you're a little squeamish, this is probably not the job for you. If you're afraid to touch raw meat, this is definitely not the job. Oh, pick up those scissors. Well, those scissors just do not want to stand up. It's okay if it's a little bit below that line, but you don't want it to keep above much because it's going to cause your jar to overflow. To have room to pressurize inside there. If it pushes all the air up out, it's going to push some liquid up with it. So you don't want it too high up. My dogs are kind of playing over there. I'm a real person, in a real house, in a real kitchen. I have 4 dogs. And they think it's time to have a relay race. Hi, Wagyu. Hi. You say hi? This is Wagyu beef. She's named Wagyu beef because she's beefy. Back there, that's Kobe beef. Say hi, Kobe. Hi, Kobe beef. And then we have Angus beef. That's 3 of my dogs. You guys need to get out of the kitchen. Go. Get down. Go. Out. Wagyu. No, you're not having this. Get out. We do feed them raw, so when they smell the food, they come running. Alright, we have about 5 more jars left. There is little gaps down in the bottom, but we're going to take care of that when we use our debubbling tool. We're going to get it down in there and we're going to release all the air gaps and try to fill it, squish everything down in. again. Two more left, but that is doing chicken all over both pans. We don't want chicken all over both pans. It goes kind of gross. One more. There, small piece here. And let me see if I can find another small piece to go in there. Oh, I gotta cut another one. Maybe. No, that's too much. Bigger piece will probably work in that one, and it does. Awesome. Okay. So I'm gonna wash my hands again. That chicken blood off. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour a little bit of water. Hey, miss, get down. Hey, go down. Get out. Out of my kitchen. Out, 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 out. Just gonna pour this water in, just up to that headspace. Just up to right here. Now when we debubble, it's actually, the water is actually going to go down into the bottom of the jar around the chicken. You don't want to put too much water in because when it cooks, it's going to cook in the pressure canner, and it actually creates its own juice when it cooks. So we don't want to put a whole lot in there. Just enough to fill the air gaps down there in the bottom. Okay. That's that. So I'm actually going to use the debubbling tool. I'm going to go on the side, and I'm just going to hold, push, blow, push, put it down in the edge. So I just want to release any air bubbles that are in there, because that's the whole point of pressure canning, is to get the air out. Air is what causes food to spoil. So, see those bubbles come up? Set these over here. I have so many. So around the sides. All the jars, and then I'm going to press down in the center and just get any air in there. So kind of press down the chicken and make it go down into those gaps. So do this quick. there. Shipping down into that. Alright, looks good. Put that in the sink. Alright, next step. So I'm using the white distilled vinegar. It's 5% acidity. It's a natural antiseptic or disinfectant. So I'm actually going to take this and here we go. I have that little cut on my finger and it's going to hurt. Ow, 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 ow. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe the rims of the jars. I'm going to go around, just wiping the edge, top edge, and around the sides just in case. Ow, that's burning my fingers. Ow, 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 ow. Go around. That stings. No, this is not just disinfecting and killing any bacteria that's on the rim, but it's also, I'm also feeling for any chips or cracks in the jar while I go around, because it's not good. Okay, you can go around a couple times, just keep folding your towel over. Starts to feel a little dry, then you just, dip again. Sting your fingers again. Give yourself some room to get in here. And turn it over, get it in a different spot. Move this up a little bit because I still have a couple jars over here that I gotta put on here. Ow, that stings. A little paper cut. Two of my fingers actually. Right there and right there. And you hurt. Stings. I guess it's disinfecting, alright. Okay, so these jars are cold. The chicken's cold because it just came out of the refrigerator. The jars are cold. So is the water in my counter. I don't want to put cold jars into a warm counter because then we'll have a shattered mess of glass that we can't pour down the sink. We can't pour in the garbage can. It would be a big mess. And we don't want that. So when you're canning something hot, like say you made spaghetti sauce, chili, something like that, it's hot, you're going to make sure the jars are warm or hot. You want the jars, the food, the jars, and the water in the counter to be a similar temperature. If not, things are not going to heat properly. Your food inside the jars are not going to heat properly. It has to kind of warm up all together and all at once. You don't want to have a hot jar with cold food inside and put it in the hot water. Like I said, it could crack, but it can also, your food will not, they stuck together. It also means your food won't process evenly. So I'm going to put these lids on, and when you put it on, you're just going to center it on the top. Just kind of put your fingers around the side and just feel if it's centered. This ring is going to go on. This is going to go on, and I'm just going to barely, it's going to be 2 fingers, and that's it. So, lids, I'm going to go ahead and, they're all sticking together. Oh, hot. That's why you want the magnet. So when you're simmering the lids, you're actually getting any kind of bacteria loose, or killing any bacteria that may have been on the lids during shipping or anything like that, or storage. And then you're also softening up the rubber on the gasket so that it will help it seal better. I'm just going to do those quick. Put it on. 2 fingers. Right. Okay. And spin it on. When it gets resistance, you're going to just go 1 little quarter of a turn. If even that. 1. Resistance. You don't want to do that, okay? Just 2 fingers. Finger and a thumb, actually. Alright. Sometimes if the rings don't want to go on easily, they could be bent. Put these in to the canner. And they're going to kind of go in one in the center, and then around the outside like this. I know it really looks like I'm kind of twisting, but I'm trying to avoid that cut, so I'm kind of using more fingers. I'm not really going any tighter than I did before though. So they're going to be like in a pattern like this, a little kind of a flower pattern, with 1 in the center and 6 petals around it. Now, I've got dogs. I've got 2 dogs sleeping by my feet. So put these in. And then I'm going to put I've got 7 in there. I want to make sure they're not touching the side, but they're not touching each other either. I'm going to put the second rack in. And this right here is kind of raised. this side, the raised side, is going to go down to hold it on top of the other jars, like so. And then when I put it in the counter, the bottom jars are like this, the rack is on top. I'm going to put it like this, so it's staggered over top. I'm not going to put it right on top of another jar. I'm going to stagger it like that. All right, now alright, they're all inside there, they're all stable. Now, your leftover vinegar. This is going to go into the counter. And I just put it around the outside. Let it go down into the bottom. And I'll show you why. So if you have hard water, and you just boil your jars without the vinegar in there, this is what they're going to come out looking like. See all that white, it's like calcium deposits on there? If you put the vinegar in, see the difference? You want your jars to be all nice and clean and pretty. I mean, this has a few little water spots on it because it was washed by hand. But this is what's going to happen to your jar if you have hard water or if you have a lot of minerals in your water and it just goes in the counter without the vinegar in there. Vinegar is going to break up the mineral deposits and it's going to keep them from attaching to the jar. So then you can have nice pretty food in a nice clean shiny jar like this. Okay, so next step. Now we're gonna turn on our counter here. We're gonna get our water going. And I'm gonna turn it on like medium. And I'm gonna let that heat up a little bit. I'm gonna let it heat up to a nice kind of rolling boil. And then I'll put the lid on. Once I put the lid on, I'm going to turn the heat up. So we're back. And my pan has been steaming. Started steaming about 10 minutes ago, and it started out just puffs of steam. I don't know if you can see it better with a black background. It started out, it was just like puffs, and then it slowly got to be a really thick, steady stream of steam. So right now it has about 3 minutes left on the timer. See how I can see it. I don't know how well you can see it on camera. So it's also letting extra steam out from this little valve back here. That's to It's another extra safety device there. Any excess steam that builds up, it's just gonna push that out. So our timer is about to go off. And I'm just gonna go ahead and cancel the timer. Alexa, cancel the timer, please.
10-minute timer canceled.
Okay. So with this, I'm gonna put this on. But that's steam and it's hot. So I'm gonna fold up this towel and I'm gonna put it on here and I'm gonna go this way with it over the top. It's gonna go right on there. So now this is gonna start building up pressure. Pressure's gonna start building up here. When it gets to just before 9, I'm gonna turn this up just a little bit. I'm gonna turn it up to medium high now. I'm gonna turn it to about 8 on my stove, and I'm gonna let it build up now. Yeah, and that's gonna take a few more minutes, so. That water dripping down is not a big deal. It just means that it's still pushing some air out, and there might have been some liquid near the lid. Let's see, where's the, okay, so right now we've got it to about 2. We gotta go up to about 9, and then I'm gonna turn it down, because it's still gonna, even though I turn it down, it's still gonna keep going up a little bit. So if you were in a different altitude chart for pressure counting, let's see, that's for vegetables. Pressure counting meat, game, and poultry. So we have an altitude adjustment. When pressure counting at altitudes of 2,000 feet or below, process according to specific recipe. When counting at higher altitudes, process process according to the chart on page 46. So I'm below 2,000 feet. I think we're at about like 500 and something feet. So we don't need to change anything. I'm good. I'm at 11. My pressure needs to be at 11 pounds. So if you're from 2001 to 4,000 feet, you would do 12 pounds of pressure. 4,000 to 6,000, 4,001 to 6,000 feet, 13 pounds. 6,001 to 8,000 feet, you would go to 14 pounds pressure. So for chicken, we raw packed, processing at 11 pounds of pressure. With the bone, it's only 65 minutes because the heat gets into the bone and it cooks the chicken from the inside as well as the outside. Without the bone, we're doing pints. So we're gonna do 75 minutes. For quarts, it would be 90 minutes without the bone, 75 minutes with. So like if you wanted to pack chicken legs in there, you could put chicken legs and you could do one upright and one inverted so that they would fit better in there. So we're at about 7 pounds of pressure right now, so we're getting close. So this book that comes with the counter, it has all the instructions in here, how to use it, how to test the gauge, the whole 9 yards, what you should do before using the counter for the first time. It has counting basics, how to pressure count foods. It has the troubleshooting, care and maintenance of your counter. It has different recipes. If you wanted to use count foods using the boiling water method, like I said, you could still do it with this counter as well. You can use it as a pressure counter or a water bath counter. All the safety information, helpful hints for pressure cooking. And it has recipes, and some of the recipes are actually pretty good. Alright, we're up to just under 10 right now. We're about 9.5. So we're at 10 right now. So I'm gonna turn this down to, on my stove, it's just under 2 to keep it at the temperature that I want to keep it at. It will hold its temperature, but it's still, even though I turned it down, it's still hot in there, and the pressure is still going to climb a little bit. So you always want to turn it down just a little bit early. And there could be like, if you're not paying attention, it could spike really quick. I mean, you turn your back for a couple minutes and it's gone from 9 to 14. And if you go a little bit too high, that's okay, but you don't want it to go under. Worst case scenario, I think when the pressure goes that high that fast, it might push some of the liquid out of the jars and into, so it's gonna, what they call siphon, and it's actually gonna make some of the liquid come out of the jars. Come on, come up. Dropped pressure a little bit. I turned it down too fast, I think. Drink. is like watching a pot of water boiling. You're literally waiting for a pot of water to boil. Taking forever, isn't it? Alright, I did turn it back up just a hair because it's dropping a little bit. I don't want it to drop, I want it to go up. Alright, we're almost there. Almost there. Just under 11. Okay, I just need to turn my back and not watch it because then it'll go. I want a piece of candy. Want a piece of candy? I want a piece of candy. Alright, we're at 11. We're at 11. I'm gonna get a good, let it get to a hard 11. And then, wash this pan real quick. This bowl, whatever. Alright, we're at 11. I'm going to bring it down to just under the 2. Now, I'm going to start my timer for 75 minutes. Alexa, set a timer for 75 minutes.
1 hour and 15 minutes, starting now.
Alright, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to watch that and make sure it doesn't change. I'll make sure it doesn't shoot up. It's at 11. Make sure it doesn't drop. If it drops under 11, if you go a little bit over, that's fine. But if it drops under 11, we have to start timing all over again. So, hair under 11. Alexa, stop the timer.
1 hour and 15 minute timer canceled.
So I'm gonna bring it back up. Okay. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a real person in a real house, in a real kitchen, and I actually live here. So you may hear a dog bark or four. Come here, guys. Come here. Come say hi. Come on, say hi. This is Gus. This is Gus Bobus. His name is Angus B. Wagyu, come here. This is Wagyu. Say hi, Wagyu. Can you smile? Smile for the camera. Smile. 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 Can you smile? This is Wagyu beef. This is our little girl. Oh, there goes the smile. There goes the smile. And Gus. My Gus Bobus. Come on. Come here. There you, Wagyu. Come on, Gus. This is Gus. Gus Bobus. Banana Bobus. Me, my mama's. Gus. And Kobe Bobies. Come here. Come here, say hi. Come on. And this is Kobe Bobby. Wait, you. Sit down. He's Kobe B. Kobe B. Come here. Alright. So we're a little over 11. I'm going to turn it down now. Turn it down just a hair. And I'm going to keep it right there. I'm going to set a timer for Alexa, set a timer for 75 minutes.
1 hour and 15 minutes, starting now.
And I'll see you back in about 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, we're back. Our pressure has stayed a little, about 12 pounds of pressure. So we're in good shape. It never went below 11. We didn't have to start our time over. We've got about 2.5 minutes left on the clock out of the 75 minutes that it had to process. So as soon as that timer stops, I'm going to turn the heat off, turn the stove off completely, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to touch it until I'm not going to remove the weight. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm not going to open it. I'm not going to do anything until this dial gauge is back to 0. Could take another hour. So try and open it while there's still pressure in it. And we want to let it cool down slowly. We don't want to remove this and start letting air come out because we don't want it to cool that fast. You could actually cause the jars to break, not seal properly. I guess potentially it could blow the lid off, but I don't want to find out. Alright, we got in the countdown 45 seconds to go. I don't know if you can hear it. You can hear kind of a bubbling sound going on inside the can. 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cue Alexa. Alexa, stop. Alright, so I'm going to turn the stove completely off. And I'm just going to let that sit. And I'll come back and show you what to do next after the dial gauge is back to 0. Okay? Okay, so I'm back. The pressure gauge is now at 0. So now I'm going to remove this. However, it is still very hot, steamy. So I'm going to open it, but I'm going to make sure that I have the towel between me and it. And when I open, I'm going to open like this so that the steam goes away from me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright, I'm going to let that air for a few minutes. Alright, I still feel a little bit coming out. Oh, yeah, it's steamy hot. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for maybe like 5 minutes. Oh. Ugh. And then I'm going to take the lid off. Now, one thing when taking the lid off, you got to make sure you lift away from you. Don't lift this way. Lift this way. If this side comes up, steam goes right in your face. So you got to make sure you lift so the back side comes up, and it's going to let all the steam out through that side. Alright, I don't really feel. I'll just check right here to see if there's any, I can feel any more pressure or air coming out. And I don't, so I'm going to go ahead and open this. I always use a towel over the edge just in case. Just as an extra barrier to keep the steam from. Here, let me show you. I'm going to go this way. I'm just just going to turn the lid. Alright, it's where it needs to be. I'm going to open some steam. Alright, now I still need to let this set. Just a minute. I want to let the jars cool down just a little. I don't want to take them out so fast that the air temperature is like a completely different temperature than the jars, because that can still not be good. These jars inside here are still boiling inside the jars. You'll be able to see that when I take them out. The air bubbles are just, it does. Get my phone, I'll be right back. I'll let that sit. Okay. Now that I don't hear any more sizzling sound, I'm going to take these out one by one. I'm just going to hold the flat side. This is going to go around the jar, like that. So you just hold on to this and kind of squeeze around the side of the jar. Like that. It's completely cooked chicken in broth. See the bubbling? So I'm going to set it over here. I'm going to leave space in between them. See if they help. Ooh, yummy. I didn't want to be picked up yet. Spit some out at me. This one, just off center a little bit, and leave it room to leave space around them. You can see they're still really boiling. Now use that just to lift that up. Straight to the sink. Alright, second level. Something siphoned a little bit because you can see a little bit of black staining on the jar lid. A little bit of black stuff on it. That means that one of the jars actually opened a little bit, and some of the stuff that was inside ended up on the outside. It doesn't mean it's not going to seal. It's just, and then the water in here has a little bit of juice in it. It's okay. We're going to wait and see what seals. Oh, you hear that? Tink. Tink. We're going to wait and see what seals, and anything that doesn't seal, we're just going to put in the refrigerator and we're going to use it right away. pull it off. I don't see anything that doesn't have a lot of juice in it, so I think it might have just been. No. Get out of here. Go. Get out. You're not gonna fight. Get out. Okay, so we heard every single jar go tick. And when it did that, it's because it started cooling off. It sucked the lid down in. So it's sealed. So we're gonna leave these here and we're gonna let these cool overnight. And then tomorrow we'll take the rings off. We're gonna keep that in place for now. We'll keep all these rings in place for now until we know that they're nice and good and set. Yep, they're hot. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Anyway, until we know that they're tomorrow, once everything's cooled off, we'll take these rings off. We'll wash all the jars with soap and water. We'll test them and make sure that they actually sealed properly. And we'll wash all the jars with soap and water, dry them off, and then we'll write the date and the contents on the lid. And then we'll put them away. Alright, see you tomorrow. Hello again. We're back. It's been 24 hours since we killed our chicken. Things all cooled and now it's time to take off the rings and the lid, or check the lids. So I'm just going to remove all the rings. To check to see if it's sealed properly, you're just going to pick it up like that. Get each jar, and I'm going to just move them into the sink. As I check to make sure they're sealed. If it didn't seal, most likely it would, the lid would stay in your hand. The jar would end up back on the counter. So, they're a little bit greasy because one of the jars, and I believe it was this one right here, siphoned out some of the juice siphoned while it was still in the canner. And that could have been because I didn't get the ring on tight enough. I could have had the lid not seated quite properly. Feels like it's on, but it feels like it's kind of off-centered. Alright. These are all good so far. They look good. I'm just going to take a sponge with some soap and I'm going to clean it really good around the sides, around all the edges. Wash the whole jar. Rinse it, warm water. I'm just gonna do 2 right now, so you don't have to watch me wash all of these jars. I'll dry it off really good. And then I'm just gonna get my Sharpie, and I'm gonna write on the lid. And it is chicken thighs. Okay, 17, 20. And there we have it. It's got some chicken fat floating in there that's came to the top, which is going to give it flavor. Lots of broth. It's sealed. The other one. Lots of fat in there.